Hello there YouTube land, and welcome back to the Small Workshop Adventures. Just some housekeeping before we get going. If you're new to the channel, please like and subscribe. Really appreciate it. And if you click the thumbs up, it helps my channel. It helps YouTube understand that you like this sort of thing, and it just shares it better. So please click the thumbs up if you like what you see, and if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. So without further ado, let's get into what we're going to be doing. So this video is in a sense in a response to some of your sort of comments and questions on the channel, some of you anyway. So it got me thinking that maybe I could do some very simple videos around some of this stuff. Now, the first thing we're going to do, this video is about sawing square. Really simple, and it's just one of those things that either you can do or you struggle with. And but I'm just going to explain some really simple ways that I was taught a long time ago by my grandfather and my dad. So way back when I was probably about 15 or 16, maybe a bit younger, I don't know. In fact, it would have been in my granddad's workshop, so I'd have been even younger. And my granddad at the end of his life had a workshop not too dissimilar to this, and was making loads and loads of things. So it was brilliant, and I just loved being in his workshop. And how many of you have been inspired by your dad, your parents, or your grandparents? And they had a workshop a long time ago, and maybe you used to go in there, and it was just like an amazing place to be. And I'm sort of doing that now. Actually, I'm going on a bit now, aren't I? I'm doing that now with my own granddaughter, and she comes in here and she loves, and she says, "Grampy, we're going to do some building." So I love it. So you never know where that's going to go, do you? But anyway, so I digressed, didn't I? As I often do. Got into just reminiscing about the past. Yeah, we're going to look at cutting. We've got a few bits of timber here, some rough timber. You can see there's different sizes. And let me come here, and we've got some here. This is just all. So we can look at the different types of timber that you would come across in most woodworking situations. So we've got some 4x2, we've got a bit of a 3x3, and this is just sort of battening, isn't it? 2x1 type thing. It's a little bit bigger than 2x1, but it gives you an end 4. I couldn't count 4. He might cut straight, he might not, but he definitely can't count. 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces of timber. So we're going to look at cutting in those. So enjoy. So the tools you're going to need for cutting a timber square, or just cutting timber. I'm going to mainly use a couple of cheap saws. Just a little panel saw, everyday universal saw. It's had some wear, so it's not amazingly sharp. And this definitely isn't sharp. This is a very used and abused little tenon. Cheap, throwaway sort of thing you find for a £5, £6, £7 in the UK, obviously, of course, anywhere else in the world. I've got some Japanese saws as well, which I might use. We have the Suzanne and these type, and I'm going to use these. You've got your dovetail, your back saw, and we're going to go with these. We're going to have a look at these as well, maybe, but I want to mainly focus on just doing it with some cheap saws, because you don't need anything fancy to cut timber square. Don't need super sharp. Well, it helps for the saws to be relatively sharp. What else do you need? We need some squares. We've got my trusty square that I use. We've got a mitre square, adjustable square there, and I've got a roofing square. Okay, a speed square, so you can see all the markings on that. whichever, it doesn't matter, does it? As long as it is absolutely square. I'm sure I've got some others, but I've even got some really big ones as well, but I'm not going to need that when we're just cutting over this, are we? So, and you need a pencil or a pen. The chosen implement of your choice. Yeah. All right, let's get into cutting. So first things first, we are going to just mark out our piece of timber. So it's fairly straightforward. So take whichever one you've got. So we're going to just start with this one. So what we're going to do is we're just going to cut a little piece off the end here. So make sure that obviously your surface, if you're cutting square timber, then make sure you've got a true square edge to cut from. If that isn't square, then you're not going to be able to cut. It's just going to go all over the place, isn't it? So assuming that this is a square, you've got one planed edge, effectively one planed edge. Okay, not the old what PAR planed all round, just one planed edge is enough to get a square piece of timber. If you haven't got, you need a planed or a very straight, perfectly square cut to be able to do that. So anyway, let's assume that's what we've got. Otherwise we're into rip saws and things, and that's not what this video is about. So table saws as well. That's what I meant to say, table saws. So make sure that is, hold that, just nice, just hold it, don't have to be gripping it very tight, just a nice little line there across there, and I'm sure you can see there's a line. Now I know that's square. Then what we're going to do is we're going to draw a line on the back. Okay, so we need to bring up our, and sometimes it's just easier just to make a little mark there so you've got it absolutely on the point, because often when you bring up your square you can't quite see the line properly, so especially if you're in the bad light, so just make a little pencil mark there, make sure that is dead in line with that, and we've got a line there. So we have a line across the top, the face, and we have a line going down on the front. If you're cutting, it would be the front edge. You can also put one on the back, on this back edge, but that's not as crucial. The crucial one is to get this one, to get it square. So get it square. So you've got that ledge, that line, and that line. So, and then we're just going to transfer it. I'm not going to use my bench hook. I'm going to actually do it so we're cutting it freehand and cutting freehand square. So I'm going to use my vise and other things, and maybe I'll even set up set up on over here, and we'll do it in as if you were on site somewhere, or you were out in the house and you don't have a vise. Okay, so simple way to do this, if you've got it in a vise, I'll put it in a vise there. What we need to do is, what I'm going to do is just, if you're using a vise in a workshop situation, let's do that front edge first. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn it round, so we've just got this edge which is just in there. Bring your saw up to the line and just put your thumb against it. Just, you can see there on this side, just your thumb just to rest. What we need to do is just bring that back, just, and this is definitely not a sharp saw, so there we go. What we need to do is just start that line, and we've got it. We've just gone across that line. Don't go any further. You've just made that line. You've just cut into there just a little bit. Now we're going to turn it round. We've got it nice and secure. You've got your line there. Now what we're going to do is we're going to come back. Now my bench is going to make it quite awkward because I haven't got underneath on it, but what it'll do, it'll help us keep. There we go. Now you can see your line, so we're coming up at it and it's helping to create. So we're working from the back line, and we're just allowing that to be our guide. Just blow the sawdust off. And now we're starting to cut through. Using that because we know that edge is true. We know that edge is square because we've cut just inside and we didn't need to go anywhere. It didn't start to deviate any other way. And now we're just working it, and we can start to bring the saw across the top. Just bringing it completely, but it is holding it absolutely square because we've cut all of that square. And this saw is terrible. So it really is a challenge to cut square with a saw that is just well past its best. Right, here we go. And now we're allowing it just to go through and allow them what we've done. And we have cut. So now we're going to have a look at that and make sure for square. So we're just taking it out of the vise. We have our square, whichever one we want to use really, and we are just looking at it there. That's pretty good, and you can see that is pretty spot on, and that's with an absolute rubbish saw that really needs to go in the bin. It's not sharp at all, but there you go. Can you see that? You see that? That is square. That's square. So let's go over that again. Right, let's do that again one more time. We've got our pencil. So we're just going to make a line across there. We know that's square. We're using a different square this time. We just got nice and nice there. And just on the back edge again, just make sure, just a little, just so you can see it. Just where your line is, because often you can't. Then you can bring your pencil to that, and that will be absolutely in line because it's on that line. You're putting your pencil on that point, bringing your square up to it, and it's perfect. And you've got you've got it perfectly square. Now you don't need to go all the way around. So let's do that again. So bearing in mind we've got to start. I'm widening it out too much. Let's bring it back in. Start on this back line. Just create a perfectly square thumb, so you're putting that right on the line where you want it to be, just to get it started. Just drawing the saw back for my cheap nasty saw, just making a nice little line there. We got that, we can see that. We just made a nice little line. Just a simple cut, just to start it, to reference it. Let's put it back in the vise. And now we come at it here. We don't come at it there. Don't start sawing there, because that you're going to go into trouble. You're going to fall out square very quickly if you start over there. So what we're doing is we're starting on this back. So we're just on this top edge. There we go. Work down. You've got your square because you've already cut it. And we're just starting to bring it along this line now. We've got that, so that's holding us. That's holding us in square, because we know that because we've cut it square. And now we're bringing the saw across the top. Just blowing the dust out. Take your time so you can see the line. And we're there. And now it's guiding us to cut square. And that should be square, 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 square. Okay, you say. I can do it with that. is when I come into bigger pieces of timber. Well, this is typical of working outside construction. It's a piece of 4x2. You can see it's an old piece of timber, but it's great for practicing cutting square. So find some scrap bits of wood. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut this square. Okay, we're going to use our panel saw, and typically, often you're not in your work shop, are you, or your shed, and you've got a vise maybe where you can make it a lot easier. You're often, let's be honest, you're often doing some DIY, you're on a job, and you've got maybe a workmate like this, or you've got some saw tables, some legs to do the sawing, to create a little makeshift to do bench that you can saw off of. So we've got a classic sort of workmate sort of bench that you would use around anywhere, outside or in the house. So the same applies. So what we're going to do is going to get our square. In fact, I'm using a different one each time, because you never know. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take our line. This is our speed square. We've got a line there. Now this one has a curve, so it's not absolutely square, which you'll find with this sort of thing. So what we need to do is turn it up. Make that little, just make that pencil line again. Just make that over. Just bring it over. Have your pencil on there. We got that on? Yeah. And we've got a square. Okay, there's your line. Perfect. Yep. Right, often you're not in a stable environment, so I'm not going to clamp this down, although you could do with this because it's got a little vice, although mine's well beaten up here, but I've cut through it. I put a rip saw through that, I think, or a jigsaw or something through it. Right, so what we're going to do is we're going to put it there and we're going to cut it, holding it just on the side, so it's just down to me. So typically you would use a panel saw or something for this. So again, absolutely on the line, have your thumb just there, just drawing back. Drawing back. Creating down. So cutting down that line, that back line again first. So we're going all the way down. We're going to cut it first, just there. So that now is square. That is going to guide us. And a plane has just gone over there, so apologies for that sound. Right, we're going to go back down that line. And we've got there. So the same is that we start on that back edge. That line, that back edge is keeping us square. Again, I haven't got the sharpest of saws, but it's doing all right. I'm staying with it. Just blowing that cobwebs, blowing the sawdust off. Now we're just holding it, it's moving around. Let's come to this. Now that is going to hold us square, because we've cut it square. The first cut was square. That gave us the guide to enable us to cut square. And she's down, she's cut through. Moment of truth. She's square. She's square. Cut and cut. Perfectly square. Perfectly square. And there we have it. That was, you're cutting with the back edge and you're coming through. So just without cutting this, you make a mark across there. Just bring that round a little bit. you can see where your line is. Put your pencil on there, then you know you're cutting it square. And what you're doing first, and this is the trick, if you cut it across here, you're going to do all this all the time. Your saw's going to go, I mean, I could cut it and it will come very close, but because you follow that line, but you automatically, you're going to start doing that. You're going to start twisting backwards and forwards. You're going to rotate from side to side. But by doing that line first, it enables the saw to stay true and square. So if you cut that back line first, and then you work from there, that back line becomes your guide. You know it's going to stay square. You can then cut it and through it goes. The last one I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a bit of skirting. All right, classic bit of skirting. So inevitably 4, 5, 6 inches across. So you've only got, again, you've only got a, ow, that hurt. I put a splinter in me splinters. Yeah, they happen. They happen regularly, don't they? Right. We're going to do the same again. Principle's the same. You're going to do that. You're going to work off your back line. And you say, Mark, well, you've only got a small one. You've still got a small area compared to this big area. We can still do the same. We can still cut it square by following the same principle, the same formula. So that's what we're going to do. Right, we're just going to square our, we've got a planed edge, one planed edged. Okay, so we've got to make sure that that's the same. So we're just going to cut this off at the end there. Draw your line across. We want to cut that. Okay. We just get it to an area where I can see it. So we're putting that in our, just in the jaws of our vise there on our workmate. Put your pencil on. Draw your line. There we go, we've got the back line and we've got the line across. Now this one is going into there. But once you've got to there, you will cut pretty much square. So we're again going to use, which one should we use? We're going to use this one. Right, again, we're not clamping it, although you could. But get yourself a quick grip. So we're just going to secure that. All right, now it's not going to go anywhere. So you could do that as well. You could stick a quick grip on there. And there she is. There's the quick grip. You could stick a quick grip on. So we're going to start with our thumb just on there, just creating that edge easy. And we're running down the back edge first. Right, it's created the guide, the perfectly square. You see, you can't go over now because you've created that guide. And just work your way through. Just blowing away the sawdust. Right. It's holding me square. What I'm doing is I'm just coming along that line to bring it in. That edge is holding me square. That guide that I've cut first, and now I'm taking it through the top. And we've cut her. Moment of truth. She's perfectly square. I don't know whether you can see that. Can you see that? She's absolutely perfectly square. There you go. Perfectly square. And just to see, yep, she's perfectly square. Cutting square. It's actually really not that. If you follow that formula where you go down the back line, that was 3 different types of timber, wasn't it? I said I'd do 4 and I only did 3. I've just realised. but I think you get it. The principle's the same. I could cut a really big piece of timber, which would be like 4x4, for example, a fence post or something, cutting them square. Not sure I've got one to hand, just to show. But if you follow the same principle, see, I haven't squared it all the way around. All I've done is 2 lines. You've got the back and across the top. And as long as you start, but don't go all the way. As long as you start there, that will be your guide. It's effectively like having a bench hook. You create that square, so which is what guides you. But a bench hook is there. If you follow that principle and every time you cut, then you're going to cut perfectly square piece of timber. Practice. It's one of those skills that we don't actually pay much attention to, and yet it's the really fundamental and basics of woodworking and working in a workshop. And then you can do it, and then you don't have to have, it's great to have all the power tools, and I've got all the power tools. I've got lots of them. Do I want more? Yes, more power. More power. But learn. And I only use just cheap and nasty saws that really should be in the bin by now. They haven't got any cutting ability, and I cut square. So it's not about the tools, it's about that formula, that following that, and you will cut. Simple panel saws. So thanks for watching this. Really appreciate it. As I said at the beginning, please like and subscribe and click the thumbs up if you've loved this. Please share the video. There's loads more on this channel if you're new to me. If you've been with me for a while, I really do appreciate you sticking with me. And as the channel grows, and it's exciting, got loads more coming up. So from me at the Small Workshop Adventures, Mark, take care everybody. Bye.